Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Stop Watering Dead Flowers with me, Chris Forbes. Before this week's episode, I just wanted to do a bit of shameless plugging for my Glasgow Comedy Festival show, which is on sale now. I will be doing a work-in-progress show called Father Christmas at the Stand Comedy Club on Friday the 27th of March. This is a pretty unique show. It is all about Christmas and is set at Christmas. The whole theme of the show is Christmas, but with a twist. If that sounds appealing to you, please come on down and check it out. In the meantime, please enjoy this week's wonderful episode. I saw someone in Costa Coffee, just outside Perth, that I swore was Paul Rudd. I asked for a photo and told him how much I loved Ant-Man. The man looked pretty confused and then said, "I'm just a substitute teacher, mate. I work in campus slang." I still insisted that we take the photo anyway. That story there, sent in from Stephen from Perth. That is, I don't know where to start with that one there. That's quite unusual. Maybe it was Paul Rudd just putting on then a convincing Scottish accent afterwards to throw him off the scent.
Maybe. I've got about 5 different men in my head that I think are Paul Rudd.
Right.
And I don't know who the right one is.
I mean, Ant-Man, the fact that it's funnier is it, because I know that Costa Coffee, when he says the Costa outside of Perth, it's not even in Perth, so he would have had to be like,
that's the wee service.
He's got the drive-through one and just off the Broxton roundabout. Big Hollywood star, Paul Rudd.
But Jimmy Fallon was kicking about with the...
Oh, that's right.
The Royal Highland Fusiliers or something like that, was it?
Well, listen, Stephen, don't give up hope. Maybe it was Paul Rudd.
Keep our costing.
Send the photo in. Maybe we could be like, mate, that is Paul Rudd. He was just pretending he was. The fact that he would have known Canvas Lang, though.
Listen, it's the home of Majeur, so... and Bruce Morton.
Yeah,
so,
well,
of course, everybody would know what Canvas Lang is all about.
Stephen, I wouldn't feel bad about that one at all. I'd say congratulations on meeting Paul Rudd. Keep sending in your stories. Please do. You can send them in on social media or at stopwateringdeadflowerspodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, welcome back to another episode. Stop watering dead flowers. To the wee jingle. I'm delighted to say this week's episode is the wonderful Mr. Scott Agnew.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
I'm all right. Not too bad.
As way of introduction, comedian, journalist.
Former journalist.
But
it's been a long time since I've written anything.
You kind of started in journalism and then... I
started in journalism. It was the only thing I'd ever wanted to do because of my glamorous French uncle, Uncle Gerard, who worked for the LA Times, who worked for La Parisienne. He looked after the football coverage of World Cup 98 for Canal Plus.
Unbelievable.
Spoke 8 languages, had travelled the world, and we got all these wee trinkets back from like Mexico 86 and the LA Olympics, and I thought, that's the job for me, a sports journalist. I want to be a journalist, travel the world.
Yeah.
And I got to the Oregon Reformer, and my career went no further. So that was. Plus, my next door neighbour at the time, when I was growing up, he worked for the Daily Record, and I would see him falling out of a taxi when I was going to school, and he was always hawking a fags and booze, and I thought, that's the
football fags
job.
And booze there. What a job.
That's the job for me.
But the reason I wanted to make sure I bring up, and I think a lot of people that know your journalistic background, but I feel like even more recently as well, you're still so eloquent and kind of you write beautifully when you write social media statuses
I like a nice rant.
And the Charlie Kirk stuff recently as well, you just seem to articulate what a lot of people were thinking, but you do stuff in a way that's obviously that journalistic.
It's just, I should really try and get paid for it. But I occasionally try to put to my training to some kind of good use.
Yeah.
But because interestingly, some of the stories take me back to my days when I was when I was training.
And am I making this up that the starting in journalism
is the reason you did stand-up? Like, you were writing a piece about stand-up.
Aye. So myself and Mr. Des Clark.
Oh, yes.
We've known one another since we were 12-year-olds.
We went to school.
We went to school together, and so me and Des have this really bizarre, strange kind of life that kind of ley lines.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made a lot less money, been much less successful, but our lives have kind of had this strange sort of parallel thing going on. So he did his, when you do your week's work experience at school, he did his first week's work experience at the Rutherglen Reformer.
Oh, really?
I did mine at the Evening Times.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got a job at the Rutherglen Reformer, and he'd went to uni. And he started doing stand up, and the paper was kind of in our circular, where he grew up. So he got to the final. So You Think You're Funny, and my boss Alison Lowson, it's all her fault. Much credit to her. She said, "Oh, why don't you do a piece?" And it's a very standard piece because with all junior reporters, you get sent on these kind of wacky, and it's just to develop your kind of writing skills and find a personality and blah, blah, blah. And also just an excuse for you to do things that you maybe had a wee bit of a fancy for yourself anyway. Maybe, right? And because I auditioned for a boy band, which was not successful.
Listen, their loss.
Strangely not successful.
Their loss.
I'll tell you, the mad thing was, right, the thing about that big audition for the boy band thing, because it was just at the height of like Pop Idol and whatnot.
Aye.
And we were expecting hundreds of people to be queued round. It was in the city halls, in the city centre. Expecting hundreds of folk to be queued to respond to this advert. There was me and one other guy, right? And the guy turned out years later, if you remember Sean Reid, Speedy.
Aye.
He was the guy.
Oh, really?
He was the other guy.
No way.
He had all the looks. He could all the voice, and there was me at the back going, "Can I get a chance to sing?" So that was it. So as part of that, Des got to the final. So You Think You're Funny, and the idea was I would try stand up for the night. We would do a nice double page spread. Des giving us some pointers because we'd followed him all the way through the competition, and that was it. So it was only ever first one I done it, and it was family, friends, colleagues, and all the rest of it in Bar 10,
just
and
for this thing I'm doing.
Mitchell Lane, and I turned up because I had my early favourites because I was obviously kicking about on the circuit because I was pals with Clarky anyway. So we were nicking down to Blackfriars. So we were, for about a year, we were sort of accustomed to the scene. So I had my early favourite, which was Mr. Mearns. And I too went and bought myself a nice big Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, really?
Because that's what a proper comedian wears, right? So there's a double page spread of me with this horrendous Hawaiian shirt. And I had an absolutely wonderful time that first gig, no bother at all, and went, this is easy.
Caught the bug.
Went back the next week and proceeded to die in my arse for the next 5 years. When Mearns giving me what I thought was a compliment. This goes to show how your brain works as well. Mearns, I went, big man. I'll tell you something. You remind me a lot of myself. And that's all I heard. Fortunately, my mate was stood beside me, my mate Stevie Gallagher. I went, did you know hear what he said after? You remind me a lot of myself. I died my arse for the first 5 years as well. But my brain had heard that I remind me a lot of myself.
Oh, boy.
Mearnsy. So that was that.
And then you were in.
And then I gave it up. I kind of fannied about it for a couple of years. I was never, and then I gave it up because it was affecting my relationship and my job. But I clearly gave it up too.
Right.
It was far too late by that point. The damage had been done. And I had a fucking mental breakdown, a proper, seriously, actual breakdown. I sold the house, walked out a job, and I had already lost the first boyfriend at this point. And then withdrew the cash from the sale of the house of a Friday afternoon and stuffed it in my rucksack, marched up Rutherglen Main Street and got a train into town, and then just thought, I'll just have a penthouse flat. So we rented this penthouse flat and went to the city centre with all the money stuffed in the cupboard.
Wow.
So that was a proper, well, you know,
That's a real one.
that was a proper mental breakdown. So by the time the money ran out, and I was 25, and cause I hadn't done stand up at this point, I hadn't for 2 years by this point either. And it was a certain promoter whose name shall not pass my lips. I did phone him because it was, we'll not get too dark, but one was contemplating, you know, events,
Yes.
let's say, and I smoked my last fag, and there wasn't a penny in the bank, there was nothing, and then turned out I was actually going to need funds and things. And I asked the promoter, like, can I get could he tap you off some money or whatever? He's like, no, you've not got a job, you've not gigged for 2 years, and you get fuck all. He's like, if you agree to come up next Friday and Saturday and compare in Blackfriars, then I'll tap tap you just now. I'll give you, I'll give you 50 quid, because that was a lot of money back then, and it was 25 quid for each night, and that was what kind of got.
It's mad, wasn't it? To think that was kind of life-saving gigs.
That's
literally.
that's what got me back in, and I because I hadn't performed for 2 years either,
Aye.
and I couldn't go. I wasn't able to perform because I never really had a proper set or anything.
Yeah.
I was still trying to figure it out prior to that.
Aye.
And I came back as this, based on a guy that I knew from sort of mad house parties I was going to. Pat the hairdresser, aye, do you want a wee bit of street? It's lovely to see you. How are you doing, hen? Get your hat and your coat on, aye. Keeping yourself nice. So, and that was, I came back with this really camp hairdresser character.
No way. I never got to see that.
No, that only lasted maybe about 6-7 months.
Right, okay.
So that died in the snow. Pat the character died in the snow.
Yes. Well, rather the character than your good self.
And my good self, I know.
I'm delighted you came through that. I mean,
I-
that was a serious point.
I know.
And
Sorry, that's
no, but it's
supposed
nice to hear.
try to
But
up.
it's also really nice to hear that it was comedy that kind of brought you right back, just from being forced to do
But
a
now I'm
gig.
trapped in comedy. I never wanted to do this. This 25 years later, stuck in a job that you never.
You can't
wanted.
switch off your own life support now.
I know. You're like, oh, come on,
Another gig.
No, I mean, it's essentially the same. It's essentially a form of journalism.
Yeah.
You know,
You're reporting on
just
stuff.
you're allowed to exaggerate, tell lies, and be foolish. So it's essentially the same thing. It's just a form of storytelling.
Well, it's a hell of an origin story into comedy, though, and how you get into it.
And over long.
And it is interesting because I knew that you and Des had gone to school together, and what I should have done is try to corroborate, because Des has been on here, and one of his stories, which will go to your first one, from his childhood was about something that happened in school. And we could have checked with you, and you could have been like, he's making that up, it's a load of shite.
Right. Well,
He said there was like a fancy dress thing, and he was told there was a fancy dress day, him and his pal, but he turned up as Freddie Mercury. No one else was dressed up in the school.
That is possibly likely because Des was part of a double act at school.
Well, there was two of them, he said, just the two of them. He's checking out.
Yeah, so that kind of sounds and they were the entertainers, they were the
Right,
comedians.
even at school,
So every kind of the sort of annual sort of school show, end of year show, was for, because I don't know, Catholic school, so I can't remember if it was Malawi or
Right.
you know, something like that. You know, it was always money going to help. I mean, you were in one of the most poverty-stricken parts of the city. Do you know what I mean? But Wayne's with scurvy and all the rest of it, but we'll raise money for elsewhere, and you'll get really demonised if you don't. But they were quite. So I can imagine the teachers sort of having set them up,
Right.
So the joke's on there, because it's just that typical thing. And it's amazing that happens at any age, you know, like straight men are really threatened by people that are funnier than them, even kids. Do you know what I mean? So they'll sort of try to get their. There was always the teachers that, I'm the Joker. And I'll make these two turn up with like a pair of fannies. Do you know what I mean? Right, that's what gets you through your day.
Well,
rather than encouraging their talent, you're going to humiliate them. Great.
Let's look at something from your childhood then and see if there was something as equally haunting as that haunted Des. Was there something you were able to pick out that, if maybe not haunting, is just stuck with you now?
For a period, I would cringe at it.
Right.
From the day it happened, right the way up. And I've only I'd clearly buried it, and then it came back to me. Well, sort of the past few years, it was a kind of strange thing. So, for those that you don't know, I'm a homosexual, right?
What?
Yes, I'm sorry, I've kept it from all these years, Chris. Right? But I went through primary school and secondary school, and I had no idea what it was, right? But it was the 80s and 90s. Section 28 was still on the go. The word gay and homosexual just did not exist, right? It wasn't even. It was illegal to say it in a school and all the rest of it. So I knew I didn't fancy girls, right? But I had no vocabulary to identify myself in any particular way, and I didn't. I really genuinely didn't know what I was until. And then in hindsight, there's all these things you kind of go, of course you were. Of course you were. That's why all the boys for Home and Away and Neighbours were on your wall, right? Do you know what I mean? So stuff like that, and all these kind of wee moments. And the earliest moment I remember like that was I was playing out in the back garden. My wee pal from the house across the back, our house of the gardens kind of met in the middle. So it was, and we were playing dummy fighting. It was like cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers or something. And a proper old scrap rolling about. And I remember the two of us sitting on the wall and me turning to him and saying, did you get a right good tickly feeling in your wee man? So me, maybe 9, 10 or whatever, was clearly aroused by that scenario, having no, and he just went, no. And I remember at that point just going bright red and going, you never ever say that ever again. And then not being able to figure out why that was happening, what was going on. So that
why is that only me?
Why is that only me? And it's I never ever broached it ever again. And it's, I mean, I can feel myself kind of blushing at the thought of it now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, did he ever think about that?
Yeah.
Do you know? Did he ever think about that?
Yeah, he's on next week. He's.
So that was a kind of strange one, and
the earliest memory of kind of an awakening.
Feeling, all right.
Something's okay.
But I didn't know.
Aye.
No, could have turned out I was perhaps possibly just somebody that was into violence, battering fuck out of people, right? Or having been battered the fuck out of. I don't know. But no, that I'm working on the evidence that's been presented. Yes. So that was just, I remember it just, because he just shut it down. It was just like, no. Like,
is he someone that you kept in touch
with?
No,
I've got no idea
that lived across
where
the way,
where they are or what they're doing now. So it would be interesting to sort of see, but I clearly fucking shut down straight away. It was like, so that's always kind of haunted me. Somehow, and then as I said, it wasn't until a conversation like years later, and just people talking about when you sort of realised, and I'd always sort of put it much later, and then you go, oh, actually, was that mad? I had it really kind of late into my teens. I remember being at school, because I remember looking at, like, when it makes you sound like you're some kind of mad creep, doesn't it? I remember looking at other boys in the PE, right? But as everyone's getting changed together, and you would kind of, all right, and I used to actually be quite sport. Well, not hugely sport. I swam and I cycled and all the rest of it. And then I done both my knees, or turns out I had Osgood Schlatter's syndrome.
Oh, I had a bit of Osgood Schlatter.
Yes.
I grew too much when I was younger.
Grew too quick, yep.
Yeah.
So I ended up, I knackered this knee, I twisted this knee going in for a tackle at football, which was dead butch, and then I done this knee practicing dramatic falls and drama. So I kind of feel my knees are very representative of both sides of me.
Wow.
The butch and the camp. But no, so that was always quite amusing. But so so as a result of that, I was in crutches for a full year.
Yeah.
And then obviously wasn't cycling, wasn't swimming, so I'd get really heavy. So I put the fact I was looking at all these other guys as down to body envy. I was like,
because you'd be
I
trying
was
to
like
make
body
sense of
dysmorphia
it.
because
Right,
I'm fat as fuck and I'm like that. And I went, if I look like those boys that I'm pulling my pudding to, I'll get a girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? That's not how it works.
That must be one of the biggest changes for kind of, current generations.
Yeah, at that age, you
more
kinda,
conversation, more awareness, more people that are.
The age that you experience it, the feelings that everybody experiences
Aye.
when you're going through all of that.
Or even if you were asking about it, people are probably now more informed to be like,
somebody would be able to go.
It's nothing. It's
A teacher would have lost their job
aye.
with the possibility of
Back
a
then,
criminal
aye.
conviction if they had spoken about that. Even if I'd went up and asked, if I had somehow had the
Yes.
vocabulary and figured a way out to say that, it was. Could you talk to you about it? It was insane. And we're slowly getting back there, but we'll not make this too political. But
No.
those laws are
Well,
getting rolled back.
an iconic line, as I say from you write things so beautifully that when you said, did you get a funny wee feeling in your wee man? Beautiful, poetic.
Poetic, I know. They'll put that in my gravestone.
That's a beautiful one to start with. Well, we move forward a little bit, and as you say, I think you said you've got a couple from your kind of career, or you've picked one out from. Is it from your journalistic kind of times?
Well, this is cringe as well, and it actually kind of falls on
Right.
as a result of
Perfect.
of that scenario. So I get my first job. So I started my first day at the Rutherglen Reformer. It was June '98. It was the day Scotland were playing Brazil, the opening day of the World Cup. And again, I wasn't employed. I was doing work experience through the summer. Right, that was the deal. First day there, and like that. That game's on at tea time. We're all up the road at lunchtime. So first day in, you were away at 12. You're like, hey, this is the life.
Aye.
So anyway, and because how best to put that? Actually, this is a revelation as well, which I do not cringe about in the slightest. And then I went to Bell College, which is now the University of the West of Scotland, I think, to study journalism. But I was kind of working at the Reformer as well, but I wasn't employed as such. And then one of the lecturers got caught, and we found out that one of the lecturers was handing out laptops to some of these female students in exchange for them not having to turn up, and they were still getting passes and all the rest of it. And I thought, fuck that guy, and I sold that story at the Sunday Mail. So it's a bit dodgy, but there was no other recourse at the time. Do you know what I mean? Fuck them. And then we were so we're in the mad scenario. We were in a journalism class where the head lecturer for journalism is in asking us who was selling stories to the papers, right? So there was a proper full investigation. This other guy put his hand up thinking he would get better credit for it. Oh. So he took the rap for it. Right?
No way.
Because he was working at the Sun. He was a sports reporter for the Sun. So he thought that'll get me extra brownie points if I claim that. And I think they kind of managed to figure out that it wasn't him, so the heat was on. And then because my boss said, as soon as, if there's a vacancy, then we would like you to maybe sort of take that on. And I'm like, well, better be a fucking vacancy quick, because I'm about to be out on my arse for having
No
essentially
way.
done the job of journalism because that was proper corruption.
Do you know, it's funny, I always hear that, you know, and a lot of times in like TV shows and stuff as well, with people selling their stories to the paper. And in a realistic term, I've often wondered about how that actually works. If people like, you call about different papers, see if there's a higher bidder, or like who you contact to be like, listen, I've got a story for you.
I mean, it's a completely different landscape like now. I mean, I don't think you would get 5 pence off it. Plus, the papers don't need to buy any stories because everybody puts them online for free on fucking Facebook. So there's no need for them to really buy stories unless it's something really, really juicy. But no, there was generally, depending on what you gave them, depending on where it ended up in the paper as well, would depend on what you would get money wise. But a story like that, because that went the front page of the front page of the Sunday Mail. I think it was just not a huge amount. Well, 500 quid. 500 quid in the late 90s was a decent sum.
Good on you.
For a story that didn't involve any celebrities, you know.
Fighting for justice, fair rights.
But celebrities was always what they were.
I bet.
If you could get a celeb in it, that's what we're after.
Listen, I know that Paul Rudd's in a Costa Coffee outside
Campus
Perth.
flag.
How much?
So anyway, eventually I got. Actually, here's this is a bit. This was quite embarrassing. So the reporter that was leaving, the paper, that then sort of opened up the job for me. I remember it was her leaving too, and my editor Alison, and we'd all the night. It was a nice night and all the rest of it. And she's like, you know, well, the job's yours. Do you know what I mean? The job's yours. And I should have, because there had been enough indications that was going to be the case. Yeah. And I went back in the Monday morning and asked her, see how you offered me a job? That wasn't just through drinking, was it? Right? Essentially accused them of being a raving alky that didn't know whether to offer a job. So that, and I remember being embarrassed at that. Should have just taken the compliment and shut up. No one back and checked if she was.
Nice to know that you have that very common stand-up comedian insecurity.
Yes.
Not wanting to believe that anything was actually going well.
Going well. But I essentially accusing the women of being incapable.
Start talking her out of it. I don't know if you want to do that.
So as a part of all that, so because I wasn't technically qualified, they had because the paper I was working for was part of what we call Trinity Mirror, so the Mirror was Record and all the rest of it. And they had a training centre in Newcastle, so it meant you were kind of doing bits of work on the Newcastle Evening Chronicle and the Journal, the morning paper, but in a proper. But there was also a classroom setting. Now most of the people, well, everybody apart from one other guy and me, they were all graduates. They'd already been through university and all the rest of it. And I'm there, like this daft boy, 99. I was still only 18. Do you know what I mean? And these, you're talking about people who went to like Oxford, Cambridge, Trinity, and Dublin. Do you know what I mean? Like really well educated people. Here's this dafty that had only managed to scrape a B in his English, right? But they thought I had something anyway. So I'm kind of a fish. I've never lived away from home. I'm a fish out of water. Still not out. I don't know about my sexuality at this point at all. Still completely in the dark, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
I'm aware that I'm not fancying women, right?
Yeah. Still just picking fights with your colleagues, trying to chase that high from when you were 9.
just give us get in a big fight, and we all drank. And here's how the world's nice and circular, right? So we drank every Friday night. We would come out of the Evening Chronicle, and we would go into the Duke of Wellington, which is the pub directly across from the Stand in Newcastle.
Right.
So when Stan bought that place, I was like, this is really weird.
No way,
this is too weird. It's brought me back to terra firma, right? Ground zero. And we would drink in there all the time. And there was 20 of us in that group. And of course, it gets out, who fancies who do you fancy? Who do you fancy in the course? And me not having any feelings, towards any of the females,
Yeah.
I thought, right, I'll duck out of this. So I picked the barmaid from
Right.
from the pub, right? So the Duke of Wellington, of course, some smart prick, right, then tells her,
Yeah.
right, and she had apparently been quite and she was friendly enough. I mean, and it turns out as she was quite keen. No, you don't expect to hit a treble 20 the first time you pick up darts. Do you know what I mean? Like, and here I get landed.
You're just like, oh, her over there. And they're like,
so-
oh, actually.
So there was Big Helen was quite keen, as it turned out. And I ended up this horrifying evening. I mean, she was lovely. She was really, really nice. But and we lived above that diving shop in the Coast Road. And I had this tiniest room. There was like 4 of us ended up in the one house because we had to abandon this house. We'd originally been put in digs. It was me and another guy, John Clement, who works at ITN. And we ended up with this. She was an Anglo-French, Jewish, Masonic nudist, right?
Wow.
She was off her tits, right? She was absolutely mental. Okay, the new you. This is when I turned up at the door for the first time. I was like, hi, that was her name. What can I call her? She's probably dead now, right? And, okay, the new, you'll be the Scottish lad then, I'm like, oh, hello. And she collected frogs. There was fucking hundreds of frogs everywhere in her house. And it was, and she made a point of, she washed all your clothes and she would put them, fold them and have them on your bed and everything like that. Stuff for you. And she would be cooking dinner and so you had to be home. So that lasted 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, there was no way to get out of there. Plus, pal John vomited in her pond and killed her frogs. So
Her beloved frogs.
and you have to stay out a bit late tonight because I've got me friend Howard round, right? And that would mean the two of them are sitting in the house in the scud because they were nudists. So there was these, and that's genuinely, this is where I put my fucking my interest in alcohol back down. It's because you were scared to go home, And then there was times you would come home and she was already, I'm in the all together, Yeah, right, my sister. So she was mental.
Wow. Naked frog lady.
Naked frog lady. And actually, journalists are just awful humans. John actually managed to go, he did a feature on her in the Sunday paper, but and made her look, that way, just made her look like a loony, when she was a loony. Right? Anne and her frogs. I think I've got 3,000 frogs of all different types.
I hope she is still about, and I hope she has an Airbnb, and I'm going to book to stay in it.
Because she was devastated. She wasn't happy with us because her previous, she had a nice gentleman from Saudi Arabia stayed with me last year, He was like Omar Sharif. And we just never lived up to this guy that looked like Omar Sharif. And I think Omar Sharif get bumped rotten. Right? His clothes fucking ironed to an inch of the life. And like that. Riding them for 6 months. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So this is dreadful. So there was Helen the barmaid had got off early one night, and it became evident she was wanting to come back to our safe house, right, that we got, because there was 4 of us unhappy with our comment, so we ended up this place, and I'd managed to get the smallest room. Now I'd never kissed a woman, I'd never touched a woman, I'd never been anywhere near, right? Yeah. So this should be wildly thrilling to any young man, right? Apparently, right? and we're in this tiny wee, it was essentially a box room, and I'm down to my scants, and she's debrad, right? I mean, I didn't know what to do, really. You know, so she literally, it's like the Lionel Richie video, you know, hello.
Touching the clay. Just
She guides my hands onto them, and I'm like, and they never felt anything like I would expected them.
Yeah.
You know, I found them a bit kind of slippery, and I get very like I don't know, very baggy kind of. Like, I mean, she was. I don't know. There was nothing wrong there, right? She was perfectly fine, but it's not how I was.
yeah.
And I found the whole
Wasn't
thing.
doing anything for
It
you.
was absolutely 100% was not doing
Yes.
anything for me. And I genuinely, I went, I think you better go up the road. And so, what do you mean? I went, there's money there. There's money for a taxi. Just go up the road. So she then went back and confessed to other folk that had been on my course,
Of course, aye.
that I was some kind of, you know, some kind of vagabond that just wanted to get her, just wanted to get her tits out and then discarded them.
Yeah.
And I never had any like explanation for it. So then like, the guys in the course then had to me as that must be the Glaswegian way. Just take them off, get the bra off them and tell me piss off. You show them who's in charge. So I think this really kind of slightly, you know, bit of a
That's amazing
A
that
dirty den character.
you've got a womanising reputation.
amongst this group. Well, they all know sins, do you know what I mean? But I was because I also didn't have another answer,
Yes.
particularly at that point. But I was, as I say, was away from home for the first time, and then as it happened, the whole area get kind of sliced up, so the whole area you would cover.
Right.
So I happened to I got the quayside, right, which is where the bars were, or the nightclubs. So it was a license for me to be pissed, but also that's where there was some gay bars and whatnot. There was like a powerhouse, and there was another place called Clouds, which didn't have a name on it. It was just like, it was just literally the painting the clouds above the door, above the door. And I kind of went, right, what was going on? I had to examine that. What was going on? Why did I have no reaction to that? Why did I find that terribly awkward?
Did you ever see the lassie again? Like you go into the pub?
Well, we
or
went
be
to the
like-
pub and it was all very awkward, and she
Aye.
wouldn't speak to me, and it was just so.
Aye. 'Cause
And
that's a shame. It's confusing for her, but little does she know. you know?
little did, well, but I hadn't figured out by the time I left
Yeah.
Newcastle, and I didn't think it was. I'm sure it's Newcastle. I'm sure she'll have got over it. Do you know what I mean? And that's, but it was terrible because I had no idea
Aye.
at all what was going on, I'd start after that. I kind of started to have a bit of a clue, and then I remember I bought a Gay Times out of the WH Smith,
Right, aye.
and I remember umpteen times sort of literally walking around outside gay clubs and not having the confidence to go in.
Right. When you came back, or still down in
No,
Newcastle,
that
these
was,
clouds and the places, and you were like,
So that was in Newcastle, and then I figured. Well, I suppose I sort of forced myself to figure it out on Hogmanay before the millennium. I must have told you this story before. There was a big street party because it was a millennium.
Right.
Huge big street party in Glasgow, and me and my mates went into the town. I had a 2 litre bottle of Coke, which had been filled with a litre of Jack Daniels, and there was this was the days when Glasgow used to actually do entertainment at the New Year.
Yeah.
There was a big stage in front of Blackfriars and all the rest of it. Blah blah blah. Got really spectacularly drunk. I lost my pals. Brought in the new millennium with 2 folk dressed up as Fred and Wilma Flintstone. Lost Fred and Wilma. Woke up in a doorway in Parney Street. I remember that quite distinctly. Passed out again, and then I woke up and my head was on a table, and I'm in somewhere that I've never ever been in my life, and kind of feeling really, really, really rough.
Aye.
I kind of stagger my way to a bar through smoke and lights, and hell of a lot of men in here. Literally not a woman to be seen, do you know what I mean? Can I get a pint of water? And, bar and stairs, mate. And then this guy come up. Aye, Lazarus has arisen, has he? Like, what the fuck? We found you outside. We took £10 out your wallet, paid you in, put your jacket in the cloakroom, sat you in that corner. I'm like, what? I went, where am I? You're in Bennett's. I'm like, and I knew what Bennett's was because I'd been kind of scouring through my magazines. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in Bennett's? Well, you said you were coming here. So I'd had it in my mind that I needed to find out, and I wanted to.
So that's, and almost that kind of in vino veritas, your mind's going.
Yeah. And then the strangest, I went to try and find I went to go and get my jacket. It was just a jacket I just got for my Christmas as well. And I'm looking for, couldn't find, I'd lost the ticket. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't get this jacket, I'd describe it. You wait to the end, and of course, because it was New Year, open to 5, and it was a millennium. Wow. They had a license to 5 a.m, so I just stand there, just sobering up, kind of slowly but surely. But it was a really weird experience. It was a kind of there was a kind of I'm feeling really, really comfortable in here. I'm all right with this, and then there's. What about how this affects your life in the outside world when this is what is going on? So it was a really strange sort of thing where it was dead exciting, dead terrifying all at once. And then, I don't know, there was this big, older, hairy, topless bloke, not particularly attractive. I didn't, just really heavy. I mean, he was big enough to sort of essentially engulf me, you know what I mean? Are you out new in the here? And I kind of get pushed against this pillar, and I get fucking the full snog and the tongue down the throat and all the rest of it. As I say, did not find him attractive, but by God, that did. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, what is going on? Right? Because there was a very lovely Helen, nothing was happening for the very lovely Helen, and now we've got this big, ugly, hairy fucker, right? But it's all going off.
There was the tingly feeling in the wee man again.
The tingly feeling in the wee man suddenly popped back. So there was lots of questions were answered.
That's what it's quite a cool way of discovery in terms of it's romanticised in my head there of the millennium, and you found yourself at the bar, and it was actually heartwarming to hear that they'd found you outside, took you in and made sure you were good.
It was, people are, the most Christian thing somebody's ever really done for me, actually picked me up and put me in somewhere, and I must have been capable of fucking conversation. But I don't know whether that was the thrill of me knowing what I was doing, whether it was this kind of strange blackout, or it was literally just the drink.
Yes.
But I must have been able to communicate properly and get by a fucking doorman. Do you know what I mean? That they were able to sit me in a corner. And that was, so I was there all night, right? All night. Eventually managed to wait to the end, got my jacket, and the phone. My dad was still about at that point. My dad's no deed; he just fucked off. And so I phoned home like, you need to come into town and pick me up because there's nothing moving. New Year's Day at the Millennium, and I need to tell them. How do I tell them? So my dad came into town. My dad said nothing in the car, absolutely nothing, and I'm going, somehow they know. Do you know what I mean? Like they've found, because I had to tell, where have you been all night to this time? I think I fell asleep on a bench in Argyle Street. All right, and that was the only thing that was said. Drive all the way home, and I'm going, why is he not saying anything? And I'm thinking, we're in for all sorts of bother. And then we drew up outside our house, and our house looked as if it had been bombed out. Right, my sister was 14, 15 at that time, and had invited 300 of her closest pals, who'd all turned up at the Millennium, fucking steaming out. They were still there. Like there was there was a guy wanking into a fir tree. There was folk in the bath. The Christmas tree looked as if it had been raped. Right, there was just the one bauble, and I think right, curtains off, like genuinely mirrors smashed, and all the rest of it. And I'm like, I think you might have got away with this gay thing. You can probably keep that secret a wee bit longer because, like, my mother was literally sitting rocking like no well. My sister was bouncing about. I don't know whether she'd been in an eckie, something, and it like the street just it genuinely looked like a house had been bombed out.
Wow, you're like result.
I'm like result. This is no bother. The heat's on her. But it being Scotland, 1 o'clock, we always had to be with my grandparents on New Year's Day.
Right.
So we kind of get packed into the car. My mother's still no said anything. My dad's just grey with disgust. My sister's still kind of bouncing about like a mental. And we turn up at my gran and granddad's, and I'm essentially the family's representative on earth, right? My gran answers the door. Do you know what I mean? Like, we must have looked like the Fritzl kids on release. Right? First we have seen the sun. Right? So these faces. And come away in. And my granddad, and genuinely, and I bricked it, realised he was getting no sense out of the rest of the family. So, how was your own New Year's, son? How was your own New Year's, son? Well, it wasn't bad. So, you're away the ferries, right? And I just went, how does he know? How does he know? Forgetting that's just...
I turned the phrase.
I turned the phrase for, did you have a wee bit too much to drink? Were you away with the ferries? Right. So, pure gratitude.
Oh, mate.
Well, that was it. So I cringed about poor Helen.
Poor Helen there, but you know, she was as you say, I'm sure she was fine.
I think I'm interested. I don't even know what something was.
She was part of a larger story.
She was well, that's it. A bigger narrative.
Exactly.
She was a cog in that narrative. Helped me get to where I was where I am now. But that's
I got to tell you, and we were talking about this before we started recording, but I feel like we could speak all day because it feels like you've got loads of stories. But I feel like we'll wrap it up there because you've given us great stories. But the good thing is, because I feel like I know you've got loads, it means I can get you back on.
Right, well, because there's another few anyway. But I actually noticed that I wasn't expecting that. Well, I don't know.
It's great though
because there was bits that I thought, that'll be like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I thought, that bit goes with that bit.
It's great to hear it. See, that's the journalist in you, linking the stories.
So there's my coming out story. That's it. That's what you've got.
It's a belter. It's a belter, but thank you.
And it was downhill from there.
We'll get part two.
Later on.
Have you got this episode? I believe, as I'm speaking now, this is probably coming out. End of November, December. Have you got stuff coming up? Have you got a Glasgow show in March or anything?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm going to do that terrible thing and plug my own podcast.
Please,
on
yes.
your podcast. Myself and Nathan Spallant do a podcast called Heart of the Matter. Hearts of the Matter, is it? Wait a minute. Matters of the Heart and Other Failures. Matters of the Heart and Other Failures. It's because I had a heart attack, 3 cardiac arrests, he'd heart failure recently, and we were just sort of talking about that kind of road to recovery and how he sort of, it's nothing that ending the west of Scotland will be able to identify with at all. So we do that once a week, every Tuesday. You get it when you get podcasts. So
check it out. I'm kind of gutted we never even got to the heart attack stuff, but we'll do that the next time for sure.
Yes, well, there's other stuff.
But thanks for coming on.
No,
mate.
thank you. Cheers.
And thanks for people watching, listening. As ever, please remember to like, share, subscribe, all those things you're supposed to do with podcasts. Drop us a wee review. That really does help, apparently. And big thanks, as always, to the Stand Comedy Club, who this podcast is in association with, to Sean Stables, Chris Thorburn for their help behind the scenes. Thank you very much. See you next time.